Welcome back to Dark Corner Studios. My name is Hayden Wolf. There isn't even time to go anywhere else in the house. Can't go down to my studio. Just got a box in the mail. We're just going to unbox it right now. We're just going to get this over with. This is gorgeous. You want to see what I got? Okay, here it is. The Audiofuse Studio by Arturia. Yes, this is perhaps going to be my forever interface. Well, we'll see, I guess. This just came in the mail, took forever. Of course, if you remember, I've been trying to kind of get over the whole experience of my PreSonus dying, so this is kind of the rebound relationship I'm going to have. So let's get to unboxing it. Okay, so inside, check this out. Whew! Talk about just kind of a next level experience when you're unboxing this kind of stuff. Just absolutely gorgeous. Of course, in the box, you have the new electronic smell, which is my favorite smell of all time. This is the Audiofuse Studio. It's a little chonky in the hands. It's heavy too. I'm gonna actually look at the weight of this thing. Under this, we've got some paperwork. It's just all really like fancy and stuff. I've never unboxed something this expensive, so it's actually kind of a nice experience. And of course, you can see down here, we have all the cables. Now, of course, you got a power brick. That's pretty big. And then you have basically every connection for that power brick for wherever you are in the world. You could travel with this thing and never have to get an adapter. That's kind of cool. And of course, USB-C to USB-A. And then down here you have a USB-C to USB-C. I gotta say, these cables feel phenomenal. I do also like the orange and black. Kind of cool. But yeah, very, very, very tough feel to them. And of course, you've got your MIDI cables. So this is if you want to plug it in and out on a MIDI instrument. Perfect. And that's everything in the box. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking this for a ride for the next 7 days, and I'll touch base with you in about a week. However, because you're watching this video, that's only going to take a couple seconds. So I guess, hello, 1 week away me.
This is Hayden Wolf. Audiofuse lineup has 3 separate pieces in it. You've got the Audiofuse, you've got the Audiofuse Studio, and you've got the Audiofuse 8 Pre. Now the 8 Pre is a channel strip, but it also works as an expansion piece for the other 2. Now the Audiofuse and the Audiofuse Studio are priced according to the amount of inputs they have. But beyond that, the feature sets are pretty close if you don't take into consideration inputs. If you're not input heavy in your applications, you might want to consider just the Audiofuse for that. Now, if you're looking at maybe just a channel strip, the 8 Pre, I haven't had hands-on with it yet. I would like to get that into Arturia there. The 8 Pre specifically, for me, I would love to see how it expands with the Audiofuse Studio. So my first impressions of the Audiofuse Studio, when you pick it up, it's got some heft to it. It definitely makes you feel like you're holding something that has a lot more in it than you might expect from its small frame. It isn't overbearing for the size on your desk. In fact, I ended up clearing up a lot of desk space when compared to my PreSonus AR8. So this thing is kind of a nice little package. I don't get the faders. However, the knobs, they feel just premium. Much like the buttons on this thing, which also very satisfying. They have kind of a haptic feedback when you press the button. You can actually hear it click when you press on the pad, which I don't know why it's so satisfying, but it is a pretty cool effect. Now the inputs are dual inputs, which means you can put 1/4-inch jacks into them. They feel secure. There isn't a whole bunch of movement in them, which you can see in some cheaper interfaces. The metering section, which is great for when you're monitoring your audio. It's broken down into small segments. You can see when you're clipping. Maybe not as useful as the included software for actual mixing and trying to keep a very close eye on things, but it does a great job. If you'll notice your clipping, if you keep it just in the corner of your eye while you're recording your audio. While you're looking at that section, you'll also notice that each channel has dedicated buttons for it, including instrument selection. You've got 48 volts for individual selection per channel, especially if you're using a ribbon microphone in your production. That is a bonus. You also have a pad button and a phase invert button. I haven't dug too deep into the phase invert button, but I want to bring Dylan on, my buddy, to kind of explain how you can use this phase invert button in your recording process and what it can do for you. And of course, you have the volume knob, and right below that, you have a listen button. What this listen button does is it mutes everything else and allows you to just listen to the one channel. It's not a pre-fade listen, it's more of a solo button. And upside the Bluetooth button, you've got a comprehensive display of all your clocks, so wherever your inputs and outputs are going and coming from, so you can actually see them live, what's coming and what's going. Next up, you've got the monitoring section, and this is the one that I absolutely love. Thank you, Arturia. Not only can you put 2 sets of headphones on separate channels so you both be listening and you can both control the audio, you can actually get 4 sets of headphones over those 2 channels. So if you want to have 4 people listening over the 2 monitoring channels, you can do that. You can get 2 1/4-inch jacks in, or you can get 2 3.5mm jacks in. So you definitely have all your bases covered. That main output knob, probably my only complaint, we'll get to that a little bit later, but that main output knob, much like all the other knobs, has a great tactile feel, and it just feels like it's quality when you're turning it. You also have the ability to monitor multiple sections of the mix, so you can set up different cues, you can set up a main mix feed, and you can switch in between this on the headphone controls, which is a great option. You can set the output to mono on your headphones, or you can set the whole monitoring output to mono with just one click of a button. And I think the biggest one right in the middle is the mute button. This is such a great button if you want to go from listening to audio to recording audio with a microphone and you have stereo speakers set up. One click of the button and your studio monitors are silenced. This is big, and I don't know why this is such a difficult thing to get on cheaper interfaces, but there it is, and it's amazing to have. And the last button on the board in the monitoring section is a talkback button. I'm not sure how many of you are actually working in a professional studio space where you have the person recording in a different room from you, but if you are in that space and you are using something like this, you're able to talk to them through that talkback button. You can talk back and forth without it becoming part of the main mix. Now, this thing also has Bluetooth connectivity, so you can connect any Bluetooth device to it and just listen to music on the fly without having to plug something in. It's a great little feature. I don't know how much I'm going to use it. However, if that's something you like and you just kind of want a Bluetooth stereo system for maybe during a party or something like that, it's a cool option. Flipping around to the back, you've got an ADAT section. Now, what that ADAT section is the ability to expand. Now, you can expand with the 8 Pre, which is one of the greatest parts about this lineup. If you get this to run the mix and you plug in the 8 Pre, it gives you a whole 8 more inputs to do as you please with, which is a nice little option. Once you get above that $800 mark, you'll start to see a lot more interfaces with those ADAT inputs and outputs. You have 4 line level inputs, which, by the way, you also have some phono inputs, which if you do use, will take up 2 of those line level inputs. Continuing on, you've got some line inserts. This is if you want to add anything else into the signal for inputs 1 through 4 before they hit digital conversion. You have a couple auxiliary outs. These are great for if you're going to be reamping, if you're recording some electric guitar. And of course, you've got the 2 speaker outs, so you can actually run 2 sets of speakers off of this thing, and you can actually switch between the 2 when you're monitoring or when you're mastering. Got your SPDIF in and out, and of course your MIDI in and out for all your instruments and fun stuff there. I think the biggest thing about the Arturia Pro that I can get on board with is the gain. The gain is absolutely ridiculous on this board. Most that I've come across and most that I've handled have had a maximum gain of about 55 dB. Now, if you own an SM7B, you already know that that's almost not enough to actually drive an SM7B, and you end up needing a cloud lifter or a FET head or something along those lines. This board though, there's no concern. Up to 70 dB of gain per channel, meaning that you can comfortably drive an SM7B and actually have some spare room at the top so you're not maxing out those preamps. And the last feature I want to bring up is the Arturia button. It's one touch into their software, and it's kind of a mixing mastering software that is a great all-purpose. You can set up cues, you can do everything within the software, and it kind of gives it just that extra level of usability, which if you get this Arturia, definitely get used to that software and get used to using it in your everyday mixes, because it's a very powerful piece that might actually be able to mainstream some of your workflow. Now, well, I guess it's time for the drawbacks. What don't I like? It was really hard finding things that I didn't like about this board. It seems to have everything you need at that price point, and it does it so darn well. But the one thing I can actually complain about would be the output knob. For some reason, and this might not actually even be a complaint in the long run, you might be a way to change it, but I find the output knob is very not sensitive, so you have to give it, if you want to gain up on your output a lot, you actually have to turn the hell out of that thing just to get decent sound coming out of it. But other than that, I think that's something that could probably be fixed in an update later on, or it's something that's buried in the settings that I haven't quite found out yet, because as much as I've done a deep dive on this thing, I haven't discovered everything. So then I guess the question is, who should buy this? Well, this is a really cool piece of equipment. This is something that is almost a treat if you've been dealing with some of the lower priced interfaces, which by all means are great interfaces, but when you get something a little bit higher up the stack, you do notice the differences. So who would want this? Well, if you've got a 4-person podcast with 4 SM7Bs, well, you wouldn't have to buy any FET heads or cloud lifters, which should make up more than enough to actually justify purchasing this thing. If you're into music, if you're into music production, you've got a small at-home studio, this is definitely for you, especially with those MIDI ins and outs. This is a great all-around interface for basically anyone. The problem is, though, are you willing to pay the price for it? And yes, the price is relatively steep. Make up your own mind though. I do have to say, if this might be a little bit outside of your ballpark, but you still want all of those features, maybe a few cut off, maybe just try the Audiofuse. It's much smaller, but I can guarantee you, it'll still look pretty sexy sitting on your desk beside your computer. All right, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this walkthrough of the Audiofuse Studio. Let me know what you think down in the description. Do you think maybe you might pick this thing up? Or is it a little too rich for your blood? Either way, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.